Today we're going to go over our most popular stain colors along with the difference between stain and painted brick, solid and semi-transparent. So let's get started. One of our first colors that I'm going to cover is antique beige. Now, when we hear the word beige, you think about it's more on the creamy side. Typically, folks want to go on more the gray. And you'll notice that in between the other two colors that we will go over, antique beige gives you a warm color, yet it's not too beige, if that makes sense. So first and foremost, here's our solid, one coat versus our semi-transparent. I specifically painted vertically just to show the brush strokes. I wanted to show the original brick color of what the actual stain is going to look like after the fact. So the big case in point here is between the solid and the semi, it almost looks like they're two separate colors. It gives you a little hint of maybe a blue or a purple just because the original color of that orange helps to come through. So this is where folks get a little bit confused when asking us questions. What's the difference between the two? And we always say if you want the original color to show through, you're going to go with the semi. If you want it to be solid, you're going to go with the solid. So that's antique beige. The very next color that we're going to cover is going to be nickel. If you noticed, I purposely cut the brick here so you have the semi-transparent and then you have the solid. So again, same color, there's at least a 20% dilution between the two, and this is a nickel. It's much brighter than folks sometimes see in the catalog, and it is a gray. It has about 95% white in the formula, so it comes off a lot lighter than sometimes folks anticipate, which brings me, I call it like the cousin of the nickel, which is platinum. Now platinum has a little bit more gray tone in there. And again, if you look at the semi-transparent, it looks like a little bit, a hint of blue from far away. And that's because when you combine the orange with the semi-transparent, it gives you like a different shade. So before you choose a semi versus a solid, just know the difference between both, number one, and the shade that you're going to achieve. Because at the end of the day, these are stains. So essentially, as the water glass evaporates, the stain is going to remain on the top layer of the brick, as you see me scratching here. It simply becomes part of the brick. If I scratch hard enough, I will remove it along with the top layer of the brick. Let me just show you an example of painted brick. This is a top-of-the-line Sherwin-Williams that I have here. It's a darker blue. And for illustration purposes, I'm doing it about the same way. You could tell how the paint gets removed much easier. That's because you have latex and acrylic versus the actual stain. You see me scratching here, literally at the same pace. After a while, you may be able to remove some of the stain, but it's going to be a lot harder. When you do that to paint, look at this. Comes right off. Now, the other thing to keep in mind when you're staining or painting, when painting a house, painting brick, this right here is going to prevent moisture from escaping during the thaw cycles between winter through summer once that moisture, really expand and contracts over time. So keep that in mind when you're painting brick. The other thing is trying to remove this could be very costly. Think about properties dated pre-1978. If you have any lead-based paint from back in the day, and we've seen buildings, just the removal, it could be in the thousands, and that could be a lot of work. And not only that, you have to pull specific permits when removing paint. So ours is inorganic mineral pigments. Everything here is literally made from Mother Nature, if you will. And obviously this latex acrylic, we all know, turns into plastic. Is not intended for painting brick. So If you have any questions, please reach out to us. Again, these are semi-transparents, specific one coat. With the brush strokes, I wanted just to give you an illustration purposes of what it would look like. And then you have the solids. So again, this is the platinum, this is the nickel, and here we have an antique beige. If you have any projects that you want to dilute a semi-transparent even more, it would essentially come off like this. So if you want like a frosty look where you literally go over to the original color and you either brush it in, roll it in, or sponge it in, you're going to achieve something in this nature. You could fill this in a little bit more, but you're going to get something like this. It's going to look very weathered. This is something that you will not be able to obtain when using traditional paint. And if you do, again, you're going to prevent breathability in the places that you end up painting. So again, even with this, you see how hard the stain stays in the brick? Now look at this. Same brush strokes. I'm literally able to take the paint off with no effort. So that's the difference between our stains and traditional Sherwin-Williams. And by the way, this Sherwin-Williams paint for a gallon is about $60 to $75, so it's not cheap. Imagine using a very, very cheap paint. You would have even more plastic built up here. So it just goes to show you, don't paint it, stain it. If you decide you want to stain it, you have a semi, solid, and a diluted look. Thank you so much for attending this video.